Nigeria, good morning. That means it's time for Business Morning, and it's the day after the MPC in Nigeria. Welcome to Business Morning Live on Channels Television. I'm Imi John Mekwa. Well, just before we delve into the decision and the possible consequences, let's go to the global oil space. Prices extended gains today as some European Union members discussed the potential oil embargo on Russia and attacks on Saudi facilities sent jitters through the market. Front month West Texas Intermediate futures, it was up $2.20 to $114.32 a barrel, and Brent futures were also up $3.18 to $118.80 a barrel, and that's on Intercontinental Exchange. European Union foreign ministers are split on whether to join the United States in sanctioning Russian oil, with some countries, including Germany, arguing that the bloc is too dependent on Russia's fossil fuels. While prices continue to rally in response to geopolitical concerns, both in Ukraine and over attacks at Saudi Aramco sites. Well, to one of the biggest news in Nigeria this time. For the 16th time out of 18 meetings, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria has adopted a hold stance, keeping MPR at 11.5% and maintaining other parameters. And at this time, 4 out of the 10 committee members voted for a hike in interest rate, and has been recorded in Ghana and other major economies. Let's see how that meeting went, and I put up that report.
Macroeconomic uncertainties associated with the recent Russia-Ukraine crisis.
Russian invasion of Ukraine and its attendant impact is a major consideration for members of the Central Bank of Nigeria's monetary policy meeting as they decide on macroeconomic parameters for the second time in 2022 to close the first quarter of the year.
These include the likelihood of tightening external financial conditions associated with monetary policy normalization in the advanced economies, the cocktail of sanctions imposed on Russia, and increasing vulnerabilities associated with the burgeoning global private and public debt portfolio and risks to financial stability.
Other factors, according to the CBN governor, include uncertainties in global financial markets, global supply chain constraints, inflation, which has led to a hike in rates in the United States and the United Kingdom, the persisting fragile recovery from COVID-19 pandemic, among others. These pressing realities elicit a tightening stance from 4 members of the 10 members of the committee. However, majority believe that a hold stance will be the best for the Nigerian economy.
Members were of the view that tightening the stance of policy to rein inflation could adversely impact the fragile recovery of output growth and may stifle the expected investment expansion.
Petrol and diesel is rising.
During the question and answer session, attention returns to the volatile oil prices in the global space, which impact Nigeria even beyond the war in Ukraine.
If there's any kind of intervention that we can provide to help it, make it easy for them to bring in these products, so that this shortage can stop, then we will see that when supply increases and people are relatively confident that when they sell whatever they are holding in petrol or diesel stock, that they can easily go and replace them, then the arbitrary price increases will reduce.
As the meeting comes to an end, Nigerians will be looking out for the impact of the promised intervention of the CBN, while the Apex Bank will be watching to see how its whole stance on interest rate will stimulate growth in the macroeconomy. Imi John Mekwa, Channels Television News.
Yes, it was a very busy day yesterday with the MPC, especially a special session, because it was all combined into one day instead of 2 days. But let's take that conversation further. We have Longi Dafoe, he's analyst with Financial Derivatives Company, and Longi is joining us for the first time in the studio. Normally we would see you virtually. Yeah. Longi, it's good to see you physically.
Thank you very much, yes.
Yeah, so did you expect that there would be a change, you know, in the decision? Were you expecting a hold stance from the MPC?
Yeah, typically, I believe at this point, holding rate sacrosanct has basically become ritualistic at this point.
Yes, because 16 out of 18.
Yes, and I believe this is also about the 8th or 9th consecutive rate hold. So yeah, we did expect rates to be held the same at 11.5% at the MPR meeting today. Sorry, yesterday as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Incidentally, at the time when the MPC was sitting, I mean, the MPC in Ghana was also sitting, and they came out with a hike in their rates. You know, because when you look at what's going on, the level of inflation and even the expected inflation, especially when you talk of energy, fuel, you know, like the CBN governor noted, they're even promising that the CBN will intervene, you know, in the supply, then it's understandable that a lot of people, a lot of countries hiking their rates, you know, to try to mop up some of that, you know, but in Nigeria, even in Nigeria, I think this is the first time we're having some members of the committee asking that there should be a hike in the interest rates.
Yes, so like you said, Nigeria is in fact the anomaly right now. I mean, in terms of what's happening globally, like you also said, Ghana, I believe, raised their rates by about 2.5%, a very aggressive move. South Africa, Egypt as well also raised their rates and also devalued their currency. So countries globally are taking really hard stances to combat inflation. But Nigeria seems to, like you said, also be the anomaly. In fact, I believe the MPC has said that they are taking this stance in order to underpin economic growth and to prevent economic growth from faltering. But at the same time, I believe it's also important to note that the grave effect that inflation is posing on our economy, and also to combat that in a way that will be most effective to hold economic growth while also preventing inflationary pressure.
Yeah, a member of the panel that we had on during the decision yesterday talked about the MPR, which of course has been retained at 11.5. Yeah. That's the real rates, the real interest rates. It could be up to 2025, which is what some members of the committee asked for. Do you think that the MPR at 11.5 actually reflects the reality?
In truth, no. So there's always been concerns about data, whether actual data, the real accurate data has actually been used to calculate the inflation rate. There's also slippages possibly happening that we might not be aware of. So in terms of data accuracy, there's of course questions to be had. And in regards to how the in regards to how the MPC voted, like you also said, 6 members also decided to hold the rates constant. Yes. 3 pushed for a 25 base points increase, and 1 pushed for a 50 base points increase.
That's really high.
Really high. 50. So I do believe we do envisage that possibly by May, as early as May, we will see most of the MPC members voting to push the interest rate upwards. Yeah.
You know, we also had a manufacturer on the panel yesterday, and the question begs that how impactful really is the decision of the MPC on the everyday life, on your everyday life, on the real sector? How impactful are they? Just figures that we come to analyze? Do they really have an impact?
Yes, in fact, they really do have an impact. But I do believe it's also important to note the impact of a currency. So I do believe currency, the present currency rate, I believe Naira is currently at about 589 or so. I do believe that also has a major impact, and I do believe it's something that should be taken into account in regards to the MPR rate as well. Yeah.
So you do think that maybe by May we might see a hike of the rates? That would be an unusual meeting.
It will be very unusual indeed, yeah.
All right, so one of the major consideration, of course, at the MPC, as it is for the whole world now, is the Russian invasion into Ukraine, and that's moving a whole lot of things. We talk about oil prices, we'll talk about commodities. You know, I think oil prices between 114 when I got that figure, but I think it went as much as 119, you know, and this is obviously seeping into the Nigerian economy.
Yes, indeed it is. So Nigeria is experiencing high levels of imported inflation. This also in regards to the recent power outages and power cuts that we've also having. So it's really exacerbating inflationary pressure and pushing things up. Diesel prices, I believe, domestically are going up as high as about, I believe, 750 naira for diesel, more than in some areas. Petrol has sort of moderated, although it's still relatively high compared to what it used to be before. So this is having a very big impact on businesses. So given the fact that electricity has been very infrequent, more businesses are having to rely on generators in order to meet their business activities, in order to carry out activities and so on. So this is really having an impact on cost of business, which is, of course, pushing up inflationary pressure. It also ties into what you mentioned about commodities. So farmers and businesses that do involve commodities, transportation costs, and so on, are also pushing up the value of commodities, and this is really having an effect on the everyday man. Yeah.
So, there's also the other side of the subsidy when you talk about oil prices. You know, I know you said that the petrol has moderated, but somebody is paying for that difference. Yes. You know, and this is, I think we've already raised $1.25 billion Euro bond
market,
as early as this year is. You know, that's also include. We'll start talking about the debt stock in a short while, and this is depriving the country of capital expenditure, capital infrastructure spending.
Yeah, indeed. You do have funds that could have been diverted to infrastructure spending, like you said, are now going towards covering the cost of fuel subsidies. And this is also, like we said, also really having a negative impact on the economy and the everyday man. I do believe also it ties into what we've said about economic growth and economic development. Infrastructure spending has been relatively low compared to what it used to be before. So I do believe we can do better in that regard.
We can do better if the fund is available.
Exactly.
But the UAE is talking about upping production quota to meet up with the shortage that we have in the global oil space.
Yes.
How's that going?
Yeah, so the UAE, since the onset of the Russian invasion, the UAE is now actually the first member of OPEC to push for an increase in production quotas across the body. So what this could mean essentially is that we'll more than likely see more oil coming into the market. Although we do not believe that this would necessarily be enough to cool off the high price of oil that we're currently seeing. The OPEC Secretary General himself did actually come out and say that there's no capacity on earth capable of replacing 7 million barrels of crude that comes from Russia if indeed a full embargo on Russia is placed. So I do believe even if OPEC were to raise their production quotas, it would not necessarily be enough to cool prices in the way that we hope. It also ties into what we've been seeing in Nigeria in regards to low production levels. In total, we do believe about 900,000 barrels per day are lost. 900,000 barrels per day of capacity are lost in terms of OPEC production levels, especially from nations such as Nigeria, Malaysia, and Angola, which have constantly been unable to meet up their production quotas. So, in fact, the only countries in OPEC presently that are able to increase capacity are Saudi and, to a lesser extent, the UAE. So it is a very mixed bag to that regard. Yes.
Yeah, well, the CBN governor also talked about that yesterday, the issue of oil theft, crude oil theft, and vandalism being a major problem. And then, of course, we have the force majeure. I think 2 majors declared force majeure, was it last week? It's up to 2 weeks now. And they outrightly said that even though last month we couldn't even meet up with our quota, it was 10% less, we still have 170,000 barrels per day that will be reduced.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at a time when the oil space is booming, when Nigeria could beef up some of its reserve and all that, we are actually losing out because we are losing production, and yet we are still paying the subsidy.
We're still paying the price and subsidies, exactly. Like you rightfully said, we are in fact losing production. If OPEC were to agree to increase production quotas, this would present a huge loss to Nigeria because this is already we're losing an estimated is it about $40 million a day or so in lost production?
Yeah, because capacity. I think OPEC quota to us is about 1.8 million barrels a day. Meanwhile, we're doing about 1.2 or less now.
Or less. Meanwhile, we're supposed to be doing about 1.7 million barrels. So we are losing a huge amount of potential gains from this, from what's going on in terms of the lost production capacity.
And there's nothing we can do about that, at least for now.
At least in the near term, exactly. But we do hope maybe as things go on, maybe possibly more reforms, possibly more security put on pipelines, and if you're just trying to get operations in line, we might be able to see an increase in Nigeria's production quota in the mid to long term.
Do you think that we're expecting Dangote's refinery to come on board, I think this year?
Yes.
You know, do you think that perhaps if we did local refinery, it will reduce the thefts? Do you think? I don't know.
Possibly it might have an impact in reducing thefts. But then I think what is also important to note is whether the refinery might have the capacity to fulfill total domestic demand that we have in Nigeria. So I think that is really the question. with that. Yeah.
But I mean, we should, so like somebody noted, we should also remember that Dangote is in business to make money.
Exactly.
It's not a charity organization.
Yeah.
Okay, and closely related to the war, you have the forecast that Nigeria's wheat imports surge in 2021. Well, not the forecast now. It surged by 71% to 1.29 trillion naira in 2021. And of course, with this Russia and Ukraine issue, we know that the wheat available has drastically reduced.
Yes.
I mean, people are turning to the alternative, which is corn, and even that has not been easy for Nigeria. And so we're looking at issues like the price of bread and feed meal. You know, I just wonder what it would do to Nigeria's standards of living.
Yeah, not just bread. Wheat has, durum wheat especially, is used in pasta, bread, indomie, lots and lots of different commodities that are consumed by Nigerians on a daily basis. What is also important to know is that, yes, it increased by 71% coming up from last year, but then it also represents more than about 300, so it's a tripling of what we saw in 2019. So this is triple the value that we saw in 2019, the current wheat import bill. So going forward, or rather, what is important to note in regards to that is that wheat, we are more than likely going to see wheat imports rise further as the war continues, as the war goes on.
But where is the wheat that we're going to be importing? Because, I mean, the major producers of wheat are at war.
Yeah, Russia and Ukraine totally account for over about 20% of global wheat exports. But there are countries like Argentina also that also...
Canada,
that also supply wheat. So it's going to be a really tight market. And, of course, prices will be pushed to new heights.
So we produce, Nigeria produces, I think, just about 8%.
About 1%.
Why can't we increase that capacity? What stops Nigeria?
At the end of the day, it boils down to availability of funds, the availability of the manpower, the skills. I do believe we actually have enough arable land, but yeah, funds and manpower and skills needed to actually produce the level of wheat that will be necessary to fulfill domestic demand for wheat. Yeah.
And what else is going on in the commodities space? How are prices?
Yeah, prices, of course, are relatively high right now. Also, I do believe something that is of note is actually what's happening in regards to aluminium. Australia has actually banned the export of aluminium to Russia, and this has actually pushed up aluminium prices to significant highs. And the reason Australia accounts for about 20% of Russia's aluminium imports. And Australia has actually taken this stance as a way to sanction Russia because they do believe that without aluminium, Russia will be unable to make arms, which will, of course, fuel their war efforts. But it's also having a negative effect of pushing up prices globally. So aluminium, Russian aluminium goes almost everywhere. You have it in automotives, you have it in aeronautics, you have it in constructions, roofings. So it's a very important commodity, and now we're seeing it go high like this. So it's more than like, it's of course going to push up inflationary pressures even high globally.
Well, some countries are going to benefit from that.
Yeah, definitely. countries will benefit from that. Other aluminium manufacturing countries, other countries that do have a foothold in this market. One thing also that I do think is also of note is what has happened in regards to oil. The EU, how the EU stands in regards to the Russian oil embargo. So I believe Germany has actually come out in support of, not rather in support, but rather Germany has made the decision to not place an embargo on Russia because they account for about over half of Germany's exports. Germany, Netherlands especially, and also Poland. These are countries that are really dependent on Russian exports, Russian gas and oil exports.
And there's the efforts, to ramp up for UAE. I know Prime Minister Boris Johnson went to the UAE last week, to try to, build fences. I know Germany also has an agreement with Qatar,
yes, exactly.
To also give them. So let's see what comes of all of this agreement and talks, because really they want to cut off dependence on Russian oil. But of course, necessity is also a major thing to consider. All right, Lonji Davo, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So after the break, we'll have a conversation on central bank again, but not the MPC. Find out what we'll be talking about from the central bank after the break. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. You're welcome back. Well, the launch of CBN's price verification system is based on the global price verification mechanism guided by a benchmark price. Essentially, the benchmark price will be based on the spot market price obtainable at the time of consummation of invoicing in the market where the goods are traded. Martha Samuel Onyanyi, Associate Director, Transfer Pricing Services with Anderson, to speak to the issue of this system, we simply know as e-invoicing and e-evaluation. Hi, Amaka. Good morning.
Good morning, Amy. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. So help us to understand how this verification system is supposed to work, and why should we even have it in the first place?
So the price verification system is being introduced by the CBN to try and verify the prices of supplies and services being paid for using foreign exchange by Nigerian companies. So the aim really is to ensure that the price of the products that are being imported are not, inflated, and then this cost is then passed on to the final consumer. So basically, we all know that we have very limited foreign exchange in Nigeria. So the CBN wants to ensure that this foreign exchange is being directed to payments that are critical for the economy, and that companies are not basically inflating prices and therefore using our foreign exchange to pay for that. So really, that is what the whole system is about, and that's the purpose, really.
Okay, so when you talk about, I just have to ask you this because it was a major part of our conversation yesterday, the foreign exchange. And I think what you just described there is what they call round tripping, when it comes to foreign exchange, and the fact that we have limited foreign exchange. It will be interesting to know if, since this system started, if it has been able to mop up, because the conversation I had yesterday shows that perhaps you still have a lot of foreign exchange outside the system that has seemed not to have been captured yet. So, for the essence of it, is it really working and achieving the goal that it was set out for?
Okay, so with respect to round tripping, it's really a situation where banks are buying foreign exchange and are not using it for the payment. So instead of them giving companies this foreign exchange, they're rather using it sometimes in the black market to make interest. Now, this particular circular addresses situations where companies approach the bank to get Form M, to be able to pay for supplies. In this particular circular, what the CBN is trying to prevent is that the companies themselves are not inflating the prices, therefore, a lot of foreign exchange going out. So this particular circular doesn't particularly aim to sort out round tripping, even though it can have an indirect effect. However, the focus is more on ensuring that the price that suppliers are, being invoiced from abroad into Nigeria is the actual market price. Now, how it's going to work, or how they have planned for it to work, is that companies that would be seeking foreign exchange or looking at processing their Form M would log into this verification platform and upload their invoices on this verification platform. Now, this platform should have what we call benchmark prices, so market prices of goods. And the way the platform will work would be that if your invoice amount is not more than 2.5% of the verified benchmark prices, then your Form M will be approved. However, if it is above 2.5% of the threshold, it will then be queried, and then companies will then have to go through the process of trying to get Form M approved. So that is the focus of this, circular.
So you mentioned the issue of the value. Who determines the value? Or at what point is the value determined?
Very good question, Ini. And this is one of the reasons why this particular circular has been put on hold. Companies have queried the CBN as to how will you determine the price of my products. So for commodities, you were talking about commodities earlier, and you were talking about the price of commodities. Now for commodities such as oil, those products are publicly traded and the information is readily available. However, not all goods are commodities. There's a significant amount of goods that are being imported into Nigeria that are not commodities. So during the stakeholders meeting, one of the things that companies raised was, how are you going to determine the price of my product, especially when it's not a commodity? And it was clear from that meeting that, the CBN, they're not ready yet to implement this type of mechanism. So this circular has actually been put on hold in terms of implementation.
All right. So also when you're talking about value, and then I note that one of the considerations is it should be a global, market price. And then you now talk about the issue of overhead costs. Like we know, in Nigeria, we seem to have a very special situation. For instance, for the past maybe over a week or so, the issue of power has gone up. Manufacturers are saying that they're spending almost double what they normally would spend on power. So, these would be important to capture if we really want this system to work.
So for overhead prices, they're really costs that are what we call below the line. So if you give an example of a manufacturing company, the first cost that this manufacturing company would incur would be raw materials for it to be able to manufacture the products. Now, these raw materials, oftentimes, because Nigeria is struggling with production of various raw materials at the moment, would more than likely be imported into the country. Now, the price that CBN is trying to verify for the purpose of ensuring that foreign exchange is not lost is this raw material prices. Now, these raw material prices, the CBN believes that sometimes in some certain arrangements, companies go ahead to inflate the cost of these raw materials. Therefore, more foreign exchange is being used to pay for these raw materials. Now, after you go looking at the raw materials angle of things, then obviously there will be overhead costs that are rising, like you rightfully said, and we can clearly see it as in terms of the inflation. I also realized that bread is now 700 naira. And
yes, it is. It is. Bread is 700 naira.
Yes, that really upsets me as well. But it is what it is. The economy is facing different challenges from different angles, including, the rising cost of overheads, and also even the fact that foreign exchange is also very limited. So companies are having this challenge of, sourcing for foreign exchange to pay for their raw materials, and then domestic overheads. So there are different challenges we're definitely facing in Nigeria. But like I said, this circular is more focused on ensuring that foreign exchange is not lost as a result of overpricing.
I guess one of the reasons this even comes on board is the issue of you've said this like 3 times, 4 times since you started saying the limited supply of foreign exchange, and it seems like a frustrating situation for a lot of business operators in Nigeria. Can we ever get out of this?
Hopefully. I mean, one of our major issues in Nigeria is the fact that we import so many things, and our import versus our export is like light and day. So until we start, and I mean, you were talking about the production of wheat. Opportunities such as, this Ukraine and Russian war should be grasped in Nigeria, and we should look at increasing our production for exportation, because there will be a demand in the world for wheat and other things that, as a result of this Ukraine-Russia war. So definitely a lot of policies driven towards us becoming more of an exporter and less of an importer should help us, manage this issue of foreign exchange.
But Amaka, they said it's people like you who have a taste for imported products that are causing this. You are the ones who don't want locally made products. We tried to do cassava bread, and you did not patronize it.
Well, I would say that I also like domestic. I think I'm a huge patronizer of domestic products. I also think that one of the issues we also have in Nigeria is quality. We do have sometimes the quality of products imported are oftentimes higher than that is, produced domestically. But I am a full supporter of, purchasing domestic products. And I think that would, help us if we all rally together and, build this economy to be more of an export. It would be good.
Okay, not going too far away from what we're supposed to discuss, but you mentioned the war going on in Ukraine, and you mentioned the fact that Nigeria could actually make some benefit from this, the opportunity it presents when we look at the other side. Is it too late for us when we look at issue of oil, when we look at wheat, when we look at even corn? Egypt and Angola are doing so well, trying to, they call it crop protectionism, food protectionism, protectionism. They protect what they have. Is it too late for Nigeria to, at least make a little gain from this?
I don't think it's too late. I think the earlier we start, the better, because opportunities don't wait for anyone. So the earlier we pick up on these opportunities, the better for us. But I don't think it's too late.
All right. So some operators, talking about the verification system, now some operators have said that this will only expand the bureaucracy, in the trade space, and then it will increase the cost of trade. What's your perspective to this?
Yes, definitely. I mean, introducing another layer of scrutiny with respect to the process of processing a Form M would definitely increase the bureaucracy. In fact, beyond the fact that it increases the process, is the fact that this price that CBN is trying to ensure that it's at market price is already being reviewed by other governmental agencies. So if we look at it, for example, if you're importing a particular raw materials, the Nigerian customs would also do some level of valuation for the purpose of determining the price for custom duty purposes. Then CBN also, in the process of approving foreign exchange, are also doing its own level of, check as to in terms of the market price, whether it is reasonable. Then the tax authorities would also review these prices, especially when payments are being made to related parties for tax purposes. So we have 3 different government agencies reviewing the price of the same supply, but they are all not using the same methodology to arrive at the price. So CBN is using its own system that it has come up with. Customs uses its own system, and the FRS also uses what we call different types of methodologies to arrive at the price. So clearly, if all 3 government agencies are not using the same methodology, there's no way they can arrive at the same price. Now, this issue is that it could lead to double taxation. So if customs has a particular price that they believe it should be at customs duty, double taxation, and FRS disagree with that price, there will be double taxation. And this cost would definitely be passed on to the final consumer. So this issue of having 3 government agencies reviewing the same price for the same kind of products really needs to be looked into.
Yeah, that reminds me of the clearing agents. They were on strike some weeks ago. We had one of them to tell us, and it was about this e-invoicing, saying that, it has highly increased their valuation and, of course, increased the taxes and the duties that they have to pay. So what, from your perspective, is the way forward? If the CBN actually has a good objective, which is to deal with the issue of valuation and invoicing and clear the system, and yet we see that it will increase the cost of trade, and of course it will be passed down, and we're talking of inflation and some other issues like that. What is the way forward from your perspective?
We have always indicated that it's very important that government agencies work together, especially when they intend on achieving the same purpose. So CBN, FIRS, Customs, and any other government agency that is interested in this particular type of verification need to work together to come up with a single methodology that will be used to determining the price of certain products. Of course, it is very important for them to verify that these products are at market price and there's no unnecessary inflation of those products. So, but we must ensure that they're all using the same methodology in order to ensure that the company is not, penalized for this, type of exercise. So definitely, they coming together is important. They also need to look at what has been happening in other jurisdictions. I mean, this is the issue that we are facing in Nigeria. It's not peculiar to Nigeria. Other jurisdictions have faced those issues, and they've come up with some form of solution that is, that is also good for business. At the end of the day, our economy thrives on the success of businesses. So it's important, we leverage on such information, what is being done globally to ensure that, that we can arrive at a good system that works for all parties.
Do you think
that's my recommendation.
Do you think agency rivalry is a hindrance to your suggestion?
It could be. It could be because, like I said, they all have different, should I call it KPIs?
And they have targets, remember they have targets.
Yes, they have different KPIs. So they're looking at different things. I mean, CBN is looking at ensuring that foreign exchange is not leaving the country as much as it is. And customs is ensuring that adequate duty is being paid. FIRS is ensuring that, they collect as much taxes for government expenditure. So definitely the different KPIs it would definitely be a hindrance to them working together. But there's a need, irrespective of the KPIs, the objectives are the same. We want to ensure that the price that these goods are being imported are at market price and not overpriced. So the objective is the same. And so far the objective is the same. It's important that these agencies work together to arrive at a common methodology to determine these market prices for the benefit of the economy at large and for businesses.
And finally, Amaka, if we keep talking about diversifying the economy and increasing our non-oil exports, these issues need to be dealt with and on time too.
Definitely. And this particular issue is not the only issue where intergovernment agencies are reviewing the same thing. There are several other issues that government agencies need to also come together and arrive at a consensus for the benefit of the country.
All right. Thank you so much, Amaka Samuel Oyani, Associate Director, Transfer Pricing Services with Anderson. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Well, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll head to the markets. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning on Channels Television. You're welcome back, and for the third consecutive week, the market opened the week down yesterday. Yeah, last week we had only one positive trading. I was not happy about that. Real, what are you doing to the market?
Ini, why are you blaming me? We only thought that the market was going to, we have some bargain hunting which will boost the market, but apparently we're not seeing that. Investors are being cautious, and we don't know why. And I'm sure it's not
and
the
now
MPC.
That MPC has come and gone.
I'm sure it's not the MPC. It's not the MPC because we're still maintaining status quo, and we're seeing that investors are just carrying on business as usual. So we're just hoping maybe the analysts will be able to tell us what's really going on in the market. But let's just start off with what happened yesterday. Trading in the equities market kicked off, as Eni said, on a negative note. Profit taking was seen in UBA, which caused the 0.07% decline in the all-share index, leaving it at 47,251.93 points. Now, the equity cap is still at the 25 trillion naira level. We're still hanging on to that. We're hoping that we don't go below that. And the month-to-date gain, or the loss of the month-to-date loss, has now moderated to 0.3%. We're having is going further down to the deep, the red zone, and the year-to-date gain is now at 10.6%. Hopefully, we still maintain that, the double digits that we're seeing. Now, total volume decreased by about 64.4% yesterday to 213.57 billion units, valued at 2.68 billion naira, and transacted in over 4,400 deals. Now, Access Bank was the most traded stock yesterday by volume at 27.19 million units, while Zenith Bank was the most traded stock by value at 534 million naira transacted. Now, on the sectors, we had the banking down, but Although Zenith Bank was up yesterday, it didn't help to boost the market because UBA was down 1.27%, which is a lot. And we also saw losses in some other sectors, or some other banking stocks there. And insurance was down also, as we can see on the board. Consumer goods and oil and gas were the only sectors that were up yesterday. Consumer goods, though we had losses in some key sectors, key components, we still saw losses. I mean, again, in that, it barely went up there. Well, it was up 0.46%. Well, it was the oil and gas sector that was 0.01%, and which was boosted by O&O. We're seeing the rally in global oil prices, but we're not seeing that reflected much in the oil and gas index. We're wondering what's happening there. Seplat was gaining, for some time, but decided losing out there, and we're wondering what's really driving these stocks in the oil and gas sector. Move on to the NASD market, where we saw that the NASD closed flat yesterday. There was no much movement from what was experienced last week. We also saw market cap note was literally unchanged. Now we bring in Onosa Asotie Enaolo, is an investment research analyst at Main Street Capital, to tell us what's really going on. Now, good morning, Onosa.
Good morning. Hi.
It's good to have you on the show. Now, we've seen weak performance in the NGX all-share index. We've seen negative bearish trend coming in from last week. We opened the week yesterday on a negative note as well. Can you tell us what's driving this negative trend in the market?
Okay. Well, let's start with what happened yesterday. So, yesterday the market fell about 7%, mostly due to profit taking. And then if we see, if you look at last week, there was also like a negative trend, some negative momentum, where 4 out of 5 trading sessions ended in negative, logging a total loss of about 33 basis points in the market. So right now we know, okay, investors are taking profits here. But if you look at a longer time frame, look at the market from, say, the beginning of the year, we are actually up a lot. I mean, if you look at our white date is about 10.62%. Yeah. At this time last year, our year-to-date return was about a negative 3%. So which means that from the beginning of the year, investors had already positioned themselves for dividends. Yes, investors had positioned themselves for dividend, and then we saw that rise in the market since January. And then if you look at the charts, as an analyst right now in the charts, we are in a channel. So while in the short term we are actually seeing bearish momentum, if you look at the long term, we are actually moving sideways between about 47,501.4 and 47,051.11 basis points, in the average. So right now we are at all-time highs that we haven't seen since 2008. And that was driven mostly by investors believing in their companies, and stocks that usually declare dividends will post strong financials, and we have seen that. But if you look closely, it will seem as if investors are not really reacting so much to this dividend and full year financials. But that's actually not true. And investors had already priced that in since the beginning of the year, and that's why we are the year to date is as high as it is. So right now, what we are seeing mostly at this point is profit taking. Earlier you mentioned the stocks in the oil sector. If you look at Seplat, yes, there has been some profit taking in Seplat, but Seplat is actually about 43% up year to date. Yeah, so there is still some bullish momentum in Seplat, and it's easy to think that oil stocks like Seplat actually rose because of the global oil markets, and maybe yes, in some certain cases that was part of the reason, but it was just mostly because of their acquisition, dividend, and future plans of the company, because we even still see somewhat elevated oil prices in the market, but that is not exactly directly reflected in trading in Seplat right now. So Seplat's rise and it was mostly for the oil market. For their acquisition of Mobil's oil producing assets. And so even when you look at other sectors, you look at the banking sector is up 8%. Consumer sector is down. Sorry?
And so you were talking about the sectors now. Are we looking, is there any clear direction where the market will be going maybe in this week? Are we expecting it to a rebound? Do you think there's going to be a rebound soon from what you're saying?
Well, to be honest, I don't think so. It will either keep trading sideways for a while or start trading downward. And because one, we are in a pre-election year, and in Nigeria here, when usually during pre-election years, the market don't usually perform. The market doesn't usually perform well. And then we'll most probably start seeing this when we start moving into Q2. And if you notice, we're almost at the end of Q1. So we actually, I actually expect market to continue to decline, and for investors to continue to take profits.
Okay, thank you so much, Onase, for that insight on the program. We value that, and we'll hope to have you next time. Thank you so much, Onase, Sotier, investment analyst at Main Street Capital. Now, Ini, we saw that as Onase said, we don't know what much to expect for the market.
I guess the election has a lot to do, because I know when we listened to Mr. Bismarck Ruwani on the news at 10 yesterday, talking about the MPC decision of the MPC. He also said that the election, which is next year, just about a year or so from now, less than a year, I think, was also a factor of consideration. So Onese has also alluded to that the market might also be reacting to the forthcoming
pre-election jitters coming into play here. We're just hoping that it's not going to cause so much, loss to the market. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's for patient investors at this time.
Yes, long-term holders, like Ladi was saying. Let's hold long.
Oh, thank you so much, Will. Thank you for that market analysis. Well, I'm talking about Ladi. He'll be here in just less than a minute. But just before he comes, before we get out of the euphoria of the MPC, one of the things that the CBN governor reacted to yesterday was the suggestion by the International Monetary Fund that perhaps the interventions of the CBN might need to be scaled down. So let's hear how he reacted to that, and then we'll have Ladi give us what's going on in the crypto space.
But in terms of advice, I think it's important that we reiterate the fact that the Central Bank of Nigeria remains a development finance-oriented central bank. And it is normal, it is very, very normal for an emerging market or developing economy to deploy development finance tools through interventions to support the growth of the economy. Let's not forget, about 2 years ago, monetary policy said that our new thrust will be price and monetary stability that is conducive to growth.
I believe we'll have more conversations on that reaction by the CBN governor in the coming days. But for now, let's go to what's going on in the crypto space. Ladi, what's going on?
Yeah, we're seeing...
I hope elections is not also...
Well, we're seeing quite a jump in the crypto market this morning. It's quite surprising for me because yesterday I saw Bitcoin was trying to go below the 40K range. But looking at the fear greed index, talking about sentiment in the crypto space, it's fear at this point. Last week we had extreme fear lower than the 26 point, but now we're at 26%, showing that traders are coming back into the market at this point. Market cap $1.91 trillion. That's up about 2.99%. Volume traded in the total crypto space is up about 28%. Looking at the buy pressure actually coming into the crypto space, seeing that reflected in the volume traded this morning. Bitcoin dominance, 41.96%. We see a price of Bitcoin did jump to about 42,500 this morning, but now it's trading at $42,300, up 3.41%. Volume traded $32.93 billion. And we see Ethereum actually jumped above the $3,000 mark this morning. It's had a minor pullback there to about 2,989 this morning. It's up 4.36%. Volume traded $19.07 billion. And we see it's all green, top alt by market cap. Let's bring in Rume Ofi now, a digital market analyst. Hello, Rume.
Hello, good morning, Ladi.
Good morning, Rume. So we're seeing quite a jump with Bitcoin this morning getting to about $42,500. What are you seeing in the market?
A lot of good news in the market right about now. In the American cryptocurrency exchange platform Gemini, owned by the Winklevoss twins, actually just got electronic money license from the Ireland Central Bank, that these transactions can be done in cryptocurrency there. And they have been going through all of this for a while now, and it was just granted yesterday. So, also, the courts in China are accepting blockchain stored evidence, so because the fact that the blockchain is actually very transparent is actually very good for data storage, of which it cannot be manipulated. Malaysia Ministry, the Deputy Ministry for Communication, actually is suggesting to Parliament that they should make cryptocurrency a legal tender for you to be engaged. These are some of the things that we've been saying in this part of the world, so that regulations can come and we make the best use of this innovative technology.
Okay, and I saw a report this morning showed that crypto users in Africa jumped about 2,500% in 2021, compared to 2020. How do you see that?
The truth is, the appetite for crypto transactions in Nigeria is actually fueled by the fact that young Nigerians and young Africans are actually lacking certain things. The job opportunities are not there, and they are beginning to see that there are opportunities in the tech and the blockchain technology, not just cryptocurrency, but cryptocurrency is one of those things that you could also do as a young person to actually help yourself. I've seen they actually find out that the financial problem, these young people have actually found out that the financial problems in Africa have been experienced is caused by certain things. So the alternative way to help establish all of those things is to trade this technology, most especially cryptocurrency, as financial instruments, and technology itself, which is all the technology involved in this ecosystem, for economic freedom, right? Because if they don't, they will miss out on this. Is a global opportunity. And we're just seeing that the crypto and the blockchain economy is just 13 years old. So if the young Nigerians, the young Africans don't put themselves out there, it's going to be a lost opportunity. And you don't need government to come and say you should get basic skills of life. You just need an enabling environment. That is why you see all of these things coming up. And most times, again, the fact that you pay lower fees and transactions is also mind-blowing. Imagine moving some funds to maybe pay for transactions in countries where cryptocurrency are accepted and paying minimally instead of using the traditional system, which takes time and long credentials for you to do all of that. I think that is the main reason why this is going on. Okay.
Quite a risky opportunity, because all the scams that we see, in that market. But let's see. Well, risk appetite is rising at this point.
It becomes risky, laddie, if regulations are not there. That is why Nigerian Parliament needs to come and take this really serious. Thank you very much, laddie.
All right, Rome. Always good to talk to you. Okay, so top of the market cap, we see Cardano there, 93 cents, up 5.80%. Solana, it's all green. XRP trying to jump above that 80-cent mark, and we see double-digit gains with IOTX topping the counter, up 25% this morning. We see Elrond also on that counter, $178. HNT, $23.79, and you see the top 5 losers is quite lean. Just Leo there, down 2.05%. So it's not looking bad this morning. It's quite green in the crypto space.
Quite green. But I think you should please tell Rume, when he talks about lower fees for transactions, you should say it gently, because by the time they now slam the fees on him, then
I know, right?
Oh, thank you so much, Laddie, for taking us into the crypto space. And that's it on the program for today. We'll have another episode tomorrow. Do join us then. But before 1:30, we'll have Business Incorporated. We'll give you an update from the world of business. To join us at that time. I'm Ini John Mekwa.